Hello and welcome to the Rum Revival. My name is Arminder, and today I'm highlighting some newly released rums from the last 2 months, as well as some newly announced rums that you should be seeing in the coming weeks. And let's start off with arguably the most newsworthy rum of this batch, and maybe of the last couple of months or so, and that is the Appleton Estate, The Source 51 year. Now this is Appleton Estate, so it's a Jamaican rum, and this particular rum is a single mark or distillate that was made from estate-grown molasses. Apparently it had some open fermentation involved. It was distilled on a copper pot still, which is notable because, the vast majority of Appleton stuff nowadays is pot column still blends instead. And then this rum was laid down in a single American cask on July 30th, 1973. Now specifically, for those of you that care, and there's probably at least one of you, this is cask number 401678. Now, this was bottled as 62% ABV, and there are two additional, frankly, crazy stats that accompany the rum. One, there are only 25 bottles of this rum. That's it. Comes in like a fancy bottle. They call it a decanter. And the other stat here is that each one is priced at $70,000. Yeah, fun. So this, if I'm being real, feels less like a real product, like less like a real rum, and more of just a PR opportunity. Like none of us are actually going to ever be able to try the rum, right? Let alone ever see it in person. So if that's the case, does it even exist? And really the only way almost every single human being on this planet will experience the rum is just through the news of its existence. And that's it, right? From the press release to its mentions on various different online news articles to videos from knuckleheads like me who are going to want to talk about the rum. That's it. That's all how we're all going to experience the rum, right? So if the rum is not the rum, I think it's really the news of its existence. That's the rum, right? And frankly, Appleton probably cares less about the 25 people who actually buy the bottles and more about literally everyone else. Because what they're hoping for is building an association in people's minds, right? They're hoping that people will become aware of this super limited, super old, super crazy expensive rum. And because of all those things, they'll think of it as a super premium and luxury thing, right? And then most importantly, what they're hoping for is that people will then begin to associate those same qualities of premium and luxury and all that with the entire brand and the entire lineup, right? What Appleton, I think, is hoping for is to have some of that, oh wow, that's fancy factor rub off on the 12-year, the 15, and the 21, right? So this is just kind of a way to get people to become aware of the Appleton brand and kind of position it in a certain kind of light, and then have that light spill out onto the rest of the Appleton lineup. That's kind of it, I think. So yeah, I feel like this feels less like an actual rum that needed to be released and more of a rum that was envisioned by a marketing team. Now moving on, it wouldn't be a new releases video if I didn't talk about yet another batch of brand new rums from Alambique Serrano out of Oaxaca. I think seriously for the last maybe 3 or 4 new releases videos that I've put out over the course of, half a year or whatever it's been, I feel like in each one of them I've mentioned at least one, if not more, brand new releases from Alambique Serrano. They're kind of on a hot streak. Not that I'm complaining. Love their rum, so it's always great to get a few more. So the first of 2 new releases from them is the Altos Esteres High Ester Pot Still Rum First Edition. Now this is an unaged pot still cane juice rum made by the Crasel family out of Oaxaca, and as with all of their releases, the cane juice comes from the Java cane varietal, and what really makes this rum unique in the portfolio is that it goes through a very long, extended natural fermentation. Specifically, it goes through 25 days of fermentation in pine vats. And such a long fermentation means that you're going to create tons and tons of esters and other bold flavor compounds. So then that fermented cane juice is then double distilled on a small alembic copper pot still, bottled at 63.8% ABV and priced around $100. Now the rum is described as having an aroma of capers and tomatillo, and that sounds amazing, sounds delicious. And its flavor profile is described as having notes of eucalyptus, grilled pineapple, green olives, and white grapes. And that sounds amazing. Look, I am really a huge fan of Alambique Serrano's unaged stuff, and I think their Cartier 30 is, in my opinion, a stone cold kind of new classic. So given that, I am very excited to see how this new release compares. Now, the second release is the Tres Años Cask Strength Single Cask number 363. And while this is labeled as Tres Años, it's not a cask strength version of the Tres Años that was released a couple of months back. This one is a 12 cask blend of both pot and column still rums aged in new French oak, and it's proofed down to 46.1% ABV. And this new one is only a single cask of a Cressel column still rum aged 41 months in new French oak and bottled at cask strength at 57.6% ABV. Now, in total, 301 bottles were produced, and it looks like they're only for the New York, Florida, and Tennessee market, though you might be able to find a retailer in one of those three states that might ship to your particular state. Pricing wise, I've seen it between $70 and $80. Next up, we have a brand new release from Hamilton. This is the Grass Skirt blend. Now, this is another one of Ed Hamilton's custom blends that he does for bars and restaurants that is also available to the public. And he's already done one for Strong Water out in Anaheim, one for False Idol in San Diego, and here we have yet another San Diego bar. This is Grass Skirt. They're out in Pacific Beach, and they describe themselves as a tiki speakeasy. Now, what is going on with this blend? Well, I think maybe shocking no one, at least not shocking me, this is a blend of rums from Guyana and Jamaica. And by my count, this is the 6th Guyana and Jamaica blend that Hamilton has put out. We've got the West Indies 1670, we've got the Navy Strength 114, False Idol 151, the Lost Voyage for Strong Water, the Florida Rum Society blend, and now this one. Now, as far as I can tell, they're all blends of rums from Demerara Distillers out in Guyana and Worthy Park in Jamaica. And also, I'm kind of wondering if it's literally the exact same Demerara rum and the exact same Worthy Park rum that are blended together in different ratios and bottled at different proofs. And I don't know that with any kind of certainty. It just feels like a bit of a hunch. And I'm very curious to see how similar or different all 6 of those rums are. Maybe someone should, I don't know, maybe do a video where they taste through all of them and to see. Anyways, it's bottled at 45.5% ABV and priced at $40 for a liter, and that's pretty good value if you ask me. Next up, we have the newest release from the Black Tot brand out of the UK. This is their historic Solera, which they describe on the label as a decadent marriage of rums aged in our sherry Solera system. So this rum starts off as the original Black Tot Finest Caribbean Rum Blend, which includes rums from Guyana, Barbados, and Jamaica. Now, recently they've changed that Finest Caribbean Rum Blend, changed up like some of the proportions and included some rum from Trinidad. But from what I can tell, the historic Solera starts its life as the original OG blend. Now, that original blend is then aged up to 2 years in Oloroso sherry and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. And after that amount of time, it's then added to a 3-tier Solera system, which comprises of 70-year-old casks that were previously used to age Oloroso sherry. Now, the rum spends about a year in each of those tiers, and when it comes out of the bottommost tier, it's proofed down to 46.2% ABV and priced around $80 to $90. Now, in terms of flavor notes, they describe it as having a rich and luxurious character with fig, dark chocolate, and plum notes. That sounds delicious, and I think the label and color of the bottle kind of evokes some of those qualities, right? Next up from Venezuela, we have the 3rd release in Santa Teresa's annual cask finish series. This is the 1796 Chuao Cacao Cask Finish. And I've had to say Chuao Cacao Cask Finish like 7 times until I just got it right at this very moment. I actually got it right twice, so look at me. So this takes the standard 1796, which is a molasses-based blend of lighter and heavier column distilled rums that are aged multiple different ways, including traditional cask aging, plus some vat aging, plus some aging in a Solera system. And then when it becomes the kind of standard 1796, it's then finished for 9 months in casks that were previously used to age a rum-based cold brew made from cacao beans that were grown in the village of Chuao in Venezuela, which I guess is known for cacao production. Now, Santa Teresa describes the rum as boasting of flavors of chocolate and hazelnut and a silkiness that's evident in every sip. This one is a must-try. Those are their words, not mine. I'll try it and then I'll let you know if it is a must-try. Now, it's priced at $50, and the lame thing about this release is that unlike the first 2 releases, the Speyside Whiskey Finish and the Coffee Finish, which were bottled at 46% ABV, this one is bottled at 43%. To that I say, dumb. That's it, just dumb. I don't know what else to say. Now, next up, we have a brand new independent bottler to highlight, which is exciting. Anytime we get a new independent bottler, I think that's great. More options for us. And this is Mainland Rum. And what's really interesting about them is that they only source and sell American rums. I think it's really cool to see an IAB have such specificity. So Mainland launched with 5 different American rums. So the first release is the Florida 7-year Sherry Cask. It's molasses-based rum that's made by Florida Caribbean distillers. They're out in Lake Alfred, Florida. Now there's no detail on the type of still it was made on, but we know it was aged the full 7 years in a 500-liter sherry cask. It's bottled at 56.8% ABV and priced around $90. Now, given that very large cask size, this has the most bottles produced out of the entire lineup with a total of 595 bottles. Now, the Mainland website describes the rum as having fresh citrus aromas, hints of coconut, and a clean, crisp finish. Also, they say it evokes images of sandy beaches and ocean breezes. You gotta love marketing copy. Now, the next one is the Georgia 7-year single cask. Also molasses-based rum, but this one is made from the now-defunct Ghost Coast Distillery out in Savannah, Georgia. No detail again on the type of still that it was made on, but it was aged in an ex-bourbon cask. It's bottled at 57.9% ABV and priced at $70, with a total of 192 bottles produced. Mainland describes it as having a robust profile featuring hints of almond, marzipan, and a touch of honey, and it, according to them, embodies the warmth and hospitality synonymous with the South. Next up is the California 9-year single cask. It's molasses-based rum that's made by Stark Spirits, craft distillery out in Pasadena. No detail on the type of still, but it was aged 9 years in ex-bourbon, bottled at 60.9% ABV, priced around $100, with a total of 168 bottles produced. Now, Mainland describes it as offering a harmonious blend of bold barrel characteristics, subtle caramel, and charred undertones, reflecting the diverse terroir of the region. Then we have the Louisiana 10-year single cask. It's made by Bayou Distillery out in La Cassine, Louisiana. It uses molasses and cane sugar, and I'm assuming by cane sugar they mean literally crystallized sugar and not cane juice, but I'm not fully sure of that. Again, no detail on the type of still used, but I think Bayou mostly makes pot still rums, but I could be wrong about that. Anyways, it's aged 10 years in an ex-bourbon cask, bottled at 60.4% ABV, priced around $100, with a total of 225 bottles produced. Now, Mainland describes this one as touched with notes of sweet molasses, toasted nuts, leather, and oak, with a whisper of dry fruits. The rum resonates with the rhythm and flavor of the region. And the last one is kind of crazy. Actually, it's very crazy if you ask me. It's Mainland Barrel Number 1. It's a molasses-based pot still rum from R6 Distillery out in El Segundo, California. It was aged an undisclosed amount of time in new white oak, and there are only 30 bottles of this that were produced. And here's the crazy part. It's bottled at 80.5% ABV. Yeah, that is crazy. I don't know how else to say it. 80.5% ABV. And it's priced at $125. And this one might have already sold out since there were, only 30 bottles. Now, I did get a chance to try all of these rums at the Rum Curious Summit a few months back, but they were literally the very last rums I tried at the event. Like the last rums I tried at the end of 5 hours of rum drinking, right? All that to say that I don't really remember any tasting notes for any of them, though I do know that, the 80% rum, the Mainland Barrel Number 1, I tried it, like a couple of sips of it, and it didn't kill me, so, that's saying something. So again, really exciting to have another independent bottler here in the States. It'll be interesting to see how much interest and attention American rums kind of will garner amongst rum drinkers here in the States. I look forward to seeing how Mainland does. Next up, we have a trio of releases from Hampden Estate out of Jamaica. And the first one is the 1753, which I've already done a video on like about 2 months ago. You can watch it like here or here. You can get my thoughts on the rum there. This is the HLCF mark from Hampden. It's like a medium ester mark that they're used to make Rumfire and the HLCF Classic. It's made from dunder, molasses, cane juice, what else? Muck, yeah, and it's wild fermented for 7 days, distilled on a double retort pot still, and then for this release, it's aged 3 years in ex-bourbon, proofed down to 46% ABV, and priced at $85. To me, the rum had aromas of honeyed bananas, some light brine, and a bit of a vegetal quality, and then on the palate, I got some tart pineapple, some banana, and it was accented with a light clove and a little bit of light char. Now, the next Hampden release is the Pagos Batch 3. Now, it doesn't seem like it changed a whole lot from the previous batch. It's still HLCF that's been aged just a handful of years entirely in a 500-liter Oloroso sherry cask, specifically a sherry cask from Spanish sherry maker Bodegas Fundador. It's bottled at 52% ABV and priced around $100. I'm a huge fan of the previous batch. It has a funky cinnamon syrup kind of note on it that I dig, but I particularly like it in an old fashioned. I think it's beautiful in an old fashioned. Now, if you're wondering if the Pagos that you're looking at on the shelf is the new batch or not, all you have to do is look at the foil on top. If it's red, it's batch 3, and if it's not red, then it's not. Now, Hampden describes the rum as having aromas of clove, walnut, blood orange, and brandied cherries, and on the palate, it's got notes of cane sugar, chestnut honey, vanilla, and floral notes. I don't know what chestnut honey tastes like. I'm sure it's a thing people have, but I don't think I've ever had it. And the last Hampden release is the Maverick. This is a special one-off limited release made in the honor of the birth of the newest member of the Hussey family who own Hampden Estate. And guess what? The kid's name is Maverick. Hence why this rum is called Maverick. The rum is a 3-mark blend. It's 50% the HGML mark, which is the 3rd highest mark in terms of esters. It was distilled in 2018, so it makes it like a 6 or 7-year-old rum. Then 40% of the blend is the LFCH mark, which is the 2nd lowest mark in terms of esters, distilled in 2020, making it like a 4 to 5-year-old rum. And the last 10% is the C Diamond H mark, the 2nd highest mark in terms of esters. It was distilled in 2021, making it a 3 to 4-year-old rum. So in total, rums between 3 to 7-ish years. Now those rums are all blended together, bottled at 59% ABV and priced around $240. And I had like a small sample of the rum that I tried, and I think it's on par with all the Great House releases from Hampden. But it is like $100+ more, which makes it a bit tougher to recommend. Next from Haiti, we have the newly announced Providence 3-year 2020. Now, this is the very first aged Providence rum that we're getting here in the US. The rum is made from cane syrup from the crystalline cane varietal. It's fermented with proprietary yeast and dunder. It's then double distilled on a pot still. It's aged 3 years in ex-Providence rum casks. Now, basically, those casks started as new American oak with level 2 char, and then over the course of 2 years, they were repeatedly filled and emptied with Providence rum, and then after that period of time, for this particular release, rum was added to it, and then it was aged in those casks for 3 years. I think that made sense. It's bottled at 52% ABV. A total of, I think, 5,000 bottles were produced of this thing, and it looks to be priced around $130. And Lemesson and Vellier describes it as having aromas of lime, clementine, banana with a touch of varnish, and that sounds amazing. And then a palette of white chocolate, honey, floral notes, and vanilla. Now, I actually got to try this rum about like a year or 2 ago at a rum show, Rum Fest. I think it was the UK Rum Show. And if it is the one I'm thinking of, I was wowed by it. I couldn't tell you tasting notes or anything, but I had a lot of rum there, but that was one of very few rums that really kind of blew me away and really stayed with me. So I'm really excited and glad that we're finally getting it here in the US so I can actually buy a bottle. Next up, we have 4 different Charanda Uruapan releases from Casa Churrasco Spirits out of Michoacan. First, we have 2 unaged single cane varietal releases, the Caña Morada and the Caña Mayari. Both are cane varietals that are grown in red volcanic soil in over 4,000 feet in elevation. After they're harvested, the cane is crushed. The juice is then open air, wild fermented in wooden vats, and then distilled in a wood fire copper still. Both are bottled at 49% ABV and priced around $55. And those 2 are actually joining the single cane varietal releases from last year, the Mexicana, the Cristalina, and the Criolla. And the last 2 Charanda Uruapan releases are single cask releases. We have the Añejo Caña Cristalina single cask and the Añejo Caña Criolla single cask. Both are aged presumably somewhere between 1 to 3 years in ex-Cascaween tequila casks. The Cristalina is bottled at 52% ABV, the Criolla at 49%. Both are priced around $70. And both are likely already sold out. Again, these are single cask releases, so limited quantity to begin with. And then on top of that, you have to compete against the agave heads, right? The tequila and mezcal nerds who want to get their hands on these bottles because Cascaween's involved in terms of the cask aging. So yeah, given that, it seems like they're pretty much sold out in pretty much every online retailer that I could find. In theory, you could kind of get super lucky and stumble upon bottles maybe if you go into a bottle shop. I hope that's the case for me, and I hope that's the case for you, as long as you don't take my bottles. Next up, we have a new release from Cruzan. This is the Island Reserve 13 year. It's a blend of 3 rums aged 13, 16, and 20 years. 48% of it is the 13-year-old rum, 22% is the 16, and 30% is the 20-year-old. Now, according to the brand, the 13-year rum contributes prominent sweet notes at the front of the palate, the 16-year adds a complex body, and the 20-year-old rum provides a long, smooth finish that lingers on the palate. No real, detailed tasting notes beyond what I just provided. Next up is the newest release from independent bottler Holmes Key. It's the 4th release in the Single Origin series. It's their Reunion Island Rum Traditionnel. Now, if you're not familiar, the island of Reunion is French territory in the Indian Ocean that has a rich history of rum making. Now, this rum is produced by the Savannah Distillery, and it's distilled on a stainless steel column still. It's then aged tropically for 3 years in ex-cognac casks. It's bottled at 46% ABV and priced around $55. Now, what makes this release notable for many people is the fact that it is a French molasses rum, an aged French molasses rum. A lot of people, we tend to think and associate French rum with, cane juice rum, but there actually are a lot of French molasses-based rums that are produced. We just tend not to get a lot of them here in the US, especially not the aged variety. Now, where things get really interesting is that French molasses rum played a key part in the history of the Mai Tai. I won't go into all of the detail, but Trader Vic specifically used a split base of Jamaican rum and aged French molasses rum in what is known as his second adjusted formula of the Mai Tai. So yeah, given that, Mai Tai enthusiasts are very excited about this rum for that reason, and this rum seems like maybe one of the only kind of accessible ways to recreate that second adjusted formula, at least here in the US. Now, it is, of course, worth calling out, though, that even though it is French rum, Trader Vic back then used a French rum from Martinique and not one from Reunion, which is half a world away. And there's probably other production differences between what was used then and what is in this particular rum. So, it's worth just calling that out. Next up, we have another set of releases from independent bottler Raising Glasses. And like with Alambique Serrano, I feel like every one of these new releases videos that I do, there's always a new batch of rums from Raising Glasses. And again, I'm not complaining. They put out some great stuff, but man, they are kind of on fire. Now, first up, we have their Perennia Coroni 27-year Trinidad. Now, if you're not familiar, Coroni was a distillery from Trinidad that closed in the early 2000s, and whatever remaining stock of rum they had was sold to all sorts of brokers and other third parties. And over the years, bottlers have released a lot of that stock, typically as single cask releases. And, these rums are known for having a kind of burnt rubber flavor profile, which isn't for everyone, but there are a lot of folks that love that stuff. Now, we've seen less and less of these Coroni releases as the years go by because obviously there's a finite amount of this stuff that's out there. And this Perennia is one of the first Coroni releases that we've had in a couple of years here in the US. So, it's cause for excitement. So this rum is a molasses-based column distilled rum that was aged a total of 27 years, 12 of which were in Trinidad, and then the remaining 15 were in the UK. Now, it's bottled at 58% ABV and priced at $275 for a 375 milliliter bottle. Yeah, it's pricey, though, Coronis are few and far between and are going to be fewer and further between as time passes because, again, there are only a finite amount of this stuff that's still out there, right? Raising Glasses describes the rum as a more elegant cask with notes of luscious fruits, dark caramel, and fragrant tobacco to balance all of its intrinsic industrial ferocity. And I'd agree with that, actually. I've had 2 tastes of the rum, and there's definitely more kind of fruitiness to this one than many other Coronis that I've had. Next up from Raising Glasses, we've got the return of the Yowie 18-year. Essentially, it's the previous Yowie release from Raising Glasses, the Yowie Strikes Back, but it's aged an extra year. So these Yowie releases that Raising Glasses has done are Australian rums from Beanley Distillery, and what makes them notable is that they were fermented with the S. Pombe yeast strain, which Beanley stopped using around 2010, and that yeast strain creates these really delicious rums that have characteristic notes of eucalyptus and apricot. Now, the rum is molasses-based, pot distilled, and in terms of aging, it was aged 12 years in Australia, 5 in the EU, and then 1 year in the US. It's bottled at 68.1% ABV and priced at $65 for $375. Now, Raising Glasses describes this as having those trademark notes of floral eucalyptus and apricot, but with the refined flavors of wild honey, white pepper, and a dry matchstick finish. Now, the next release is yet another Yowie. This time it's the Phantom Yowie 18-year. Basically, it's last year's Yowie Strikes Back, but aged 10 more months in a Madeira cask. Now, like the return of the Yowie, it's bottled at 68.1% ABV, priced at $65 for $375. And I imagine it probably has similar notes as the Return of the Yowie, but with some kind of Madeira notes to it. And lastly, from Raising Glasses, we have the Pelee's Fury 3. Now, all three of the Pelee's Fury releases over the last year and a half now, whatever it's been, have been kind of grander rums, which are molasses-based, calm distilled rums that go through an extended fermentation with the use of dunder, and that creates a bold, intense, aromatic rum. Now, these Pelee's Furies were made at La Galleon Distillery in Martinique. The first one was unaged, the second was aged 10 months in a Mountain Gay cask, and this third edition was aged 10 months in a Oloroso Sherry quarter cask. It was bottled at 60.5% ABV and priced at $40. Now, Raising Glasses describes the sherry aging as adding notes of figs and cured meats to the base notes of wild tropical fruits, black olives, candied prunes, and salted almonds. That sounds delicious. Now, on the topic of Raising Glasses, besides doing their own bottlings, they also import in other brands, and they've brought in 2 brands that are brand new to the US market. First, we have 3 rums from Matugga, a Scottish brand that's been around since 2015, and they're based out of near Edinburgh, actually, and they use the tagline, Scottish Craft, African Soul. The founders, Jacine and Paul, draw inspiration from their Jamaican and Ugandan heritage and actually use African ingredients in their rum making. The first rum is the Matugga White. It's made from African molasses with some amount of wild fermentation apparently, and it's distilled on a copper pot still. It's bottled at 45% ABV and priced at $50. Now, the label describes it as funky with fruity aromas, and Raising Glasses describes it as kind of coming right out of the gates with funky esters and tropical fruits with a dry, complex backbone that works both as a neat pour or in a killer daiquiri. Then we have the Matugga Golden. This is also a rum distilled on a pot still. It's aged some undisclosed amount of time in ex-bourbon. It's bottled at 42% ABV and priced at $50. The last Matugga release is the Spiced US edition. So apparently they have in the UK the standard Spiced, which is made with Scottish honey and a masala chai blend that includes black tea, fresh ginger, and various spices. Now for this particular USA edition, they have all of that plus genuine vanilla bean pods. It's bottled at 42% ABV and priced at $45. Now, the other brand that Raising Glasses just brought in is another independent bottler. It's a Canadian one, actually. It's Bedford Park Spirits, and we've got 9 single cask releases from them. First up, we have the French Antilles 2017 6-year. It's a column distilled cane juice rum aged 6 years. Supposedly, it's from Martinique, and if I had to guess, it might be St. James, but don't quote me on that. Now, it's bottled at 57.6% ABV, priced at around $100, with a total of 225 bottles available. Next up, we have not one, but 2 17-year Foursquare releases, the Pinball and the Elise Flowers. Now, both are molasses-based pot calm blends aged 14 years in Barbados and then the final 3 years in Europe. Now, the Elise Flowers cask is 59.6% ABV with a total of 250 bottles, and the Pinball is 58.8% ABV with 243 bottles, and both are priced at $160. Next up, we've got the Jamaica Long Pond CRV 2004 19-year. Now, it's obviously made at the Long Pond Distillery, and what's fascinating about this release is that it's the rare CRV mark, which I guess they stopped making back in 2009 when the column still that it's made on was damaged. And from what I'm gathering online, it seems like actually a very, very low ester mark, which I think is kind of interesting for a Jamaican rum. It's aged in Jamaica for around 14 years and then another 5 in Europe. It's bottled at 66.1% ABV, a total of 256 bottles, and it's priced at $185. Then we have the Fiji 2014 19-year. It's made at South Pacific Distilleries. It's a molasses-based pot distilled rum aged a total of 19 years. It's aged 12 in Fiji and the remainder in Europe. It's bottled at 57.6% ABV. A total of 223 bottles were produced, and it's priced at $200. Next up, we have 2 different Hampden Estate casks. The first is the 2014 Hampden Diamond H 10-year. It's a molasses-based pot distilled rum. The Diamond H mark is a higher ester mark for Hampden. It's aged around 6 years in Jamaica and then another 4 in Europe. Bottled at 66.8% ABV. There are 239 bottles, and it's priced at $225. Then we have the 2000 Hampden 23-year El Rock It's pot distilled, and obviously it's the L Rock mark, which is a lower ester mark for Hampden. It's aged all 23 years in Europe in a new French oak cask. It's bottled at 54.8% ABV. There are a total of 402 bottles, and it's priced at $250. Then we have the Westerhall 1996 Grenada 27 year. It's a molasses-based, calm distilled rum made by the now defunct Westerhall Distillery in Grenada. It was aged 12 years in Grenada and then another 15 in Europe. It's bottled at 56% ABV. A total of 233 bottles were produced, and it's priced at $250. And lastly, hey, remember how I said Coroni releases are pretty rare nowadays? Well, guess what? We've actually got another one. This is the Coroni 1998 Trinidad 25 year. Now, it's molasses-based, calm distilled, aged 25 years in an ex-rum cask. Not too sure if it's tropical or continental or some combination. Bottled at 59.6% ABV. A total of 208 bottles were made available. And it's priced at, kind of a pricey price point. It's $450, but it's Coroni. That's kind of to be expected, I guess. Well, there you go. Those were the newest and upcoming rum releases. Now, I'd like to know, are you planning on buying any one of the rums that I covered today? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you want to further support this channel, then check out my Patreon page where I have a bunch of exclusive content that I think you'll enjoy. And if you sign up for one of the paid tiers, you get access to the Rum Revival Discord server, which is a great community of great people that talk about rum. It's awesome. Yeah, that's that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Cheers.